evening, everyone. My name is Gabrielle, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Money with Friends. As you know, every Wednesday we have the pleasure of coming to you wherever you are, whether it's at home, at work, in your car, wherever you are. We come to you to share really important and relevant information about money. But of course, we know money encompasses everything. So our goal in this show here is to really address so many different issues that you can be interested in and issues that will get you to think about your life and your finances. So without further ado, tonight we have an awesome topic because this topic, I've been talking to friends about it, and it's culture matters. Why does culture matter? Because culture encompasses everything. It's the way of life for me, for you, for a group of people. Culture directs our behaviors, beliefs, values, even symbols that we accept. And also to we be our culture without even thinking about it. So that's the important things about culture. So tonight we have some wonderful guests with us. I have some new guests and also friends, I should say. They are all friends. And also we have returning friends. And what I'm gonna do is give my new friend an opportunity to introduce herself and let us know why she's decided to be part of this conversation tonight. So Joanne, you're up first.
Oh, hi. Well, thank you, Gabrielle. My name's Joanne, and I was invited by Odessa. We are friends. We live in the same town. I thought that this topic sounded so interesting and so engaging. I personally love meeting people from other cultures and parts of the world. I love to learn about people's customs and the way their families work and the languages they speak, the foods they eat. And I really wanted to engage in this conversation to learn more about other people and to understand people better as well.
Yes, I'm with you, Joanne. And why don't we go with Queen tonight?
Peace, everyone. Blessings to you all. If we could take a quick moment of silence for just a quick few seconds for everyone that is going through something in this time, and send them healing energy. You know, this is a trying time with the holidays coming up, the new year, new goals, new intentions. People are stressing about who they're going to buy a gift for. So if we could just take a moment of silence and just send positive energy to all those people in need, I would appreciate that. Thank you so much, everyone. So we're talking about culture. So what questions do you have for me, Queen? We have
I wanted you to do a quick introduction for those who don't know, who haven't seen you.
Okay. So I'm Queen Dawn Spirit. My company is queendawnspirit.com. You can reach me at dawnspirit k@gmail.com. I have a YouTube channel, which is Queen Dawn Spirit Reiki Master Teacher. I am a Reiki Master Teacher, a past life regression therapist, a future life progression therapist, an officiant, and a certified healer. I just embarked upon another healing tool. I'm all about healing and uplifting and helping people reach their goals. So I have a new program that I've embarked upon, and I can't wait to share with everyone. I'm still studying it. So it is like a playlist of music that you would play first thing in the morning to help you reach a goal. It could be a house, it could be a career, it could be a relationship, it could be diabetes, illnesses, anything that you're trying to connect to or manifest an intention. I'm doing this new program, so I can't wait to share it with everyone. So check out my YouTube channel as well as my website, and I'll be offering the first 50 people $25 for each session. I love teaching people how to heal themselves. We all are healers, but we tend to forget in this amnesia world. So that's my mission in helping people to reach their highest goals, because the sky is the limit.
Correct. The sky is the limit. Diversity is so important as well. So we have Ms. Gabrielle. Gabrielle, why don't you quickly introduce yourself, please?
Hi, I'm Gabrielle. I used to be a high school science teacher, and now I am a screenwriter. And I've always considered myself a multicultural person growing up in New York City. And my mom was my inspiration. She always had friends from different cultures, and she taught me to be an anti-racist. And we had friends from so many cultures, and I think it's the best way to live. I have friends in different countries. I have places to go in China and Korea, Brazil, Liberia, a few countries in Europe, and it's so enriching, and I learn from everybody and everybody's culture, and I love that. And I write about, in my writing also, I like to explore people, their characters, and where they come from and how that influences their behavior and their choices in life.
So important. I love the fact that you said that I have places to go all over the world, right? Odessa, why don't you introduce yourself?
Well, I'm Odessa Sanchez, and I am a return visitor here for your panel. Thank you again for inviting me. Yes, this topic, your culture matters. It's so powerful because I think a lot of people have pride in their culture, but then some people feel intimidated about sharing that pride. So for myself, I've always been proud that I'm a Black American woman. I find that my culture is a blend of African American culture as well as American culture because I was raised to definitely have my own sense of Black culture, but then I also was raised to be very patriotic as well, being a just regular young child growing up in America. So I think I was blessed to grow up in a community that was diverse and that allowed me to see myself in the faces of regular American students because I think some children of color, they don't get to feel pride in their patriotism because they're often sold the kind of stigma that, oh, America doesn't love you, or you're not American, or you're not welcome. So me, myself, I'm very, very proud of being a Black American, and I do see myself as that. And when I go travel, because I have traveled around the world, I know that I've been to countries and different islands where the people looked like me, but they saw me as an American first. So that's very self-reflective for myself. So I think what your culture is how you feel about yourself and your culture, and it's also how others see you. And recognizing that and knowing that is one of the most powerful things that each individual can have. So that's why I'm
Yeah,
out today.
that's great because I would like to actually start with the questioning. I know Lisa's been here. Lisa, you can introduce yourself as well. But after you introduce yourself, I just want to ask the question. We've been talking about culture, culture. Can we again explain to those who are watching what exactly is culture, and how can that evolve over time? So Lisa, introduce yourself, and you can take a dab on that question.
I am Lisa Worthy. I have been in marketing for several years. What I love about that in marketing is that you need to be open to different cultures. And what culture is for me is different things from the language to food, to even certain mannerisms. How you dress maybe may play a role into that. Even subconscious things. How do you communicate with people? So different things that kind of are a symbol or woven, make a makeup of you in your everyday, how you interact, how you dress, how you eat, even in how you speak. And sometimes even some values. Values can be slightly different or some maybe transparent to other people as well. So that's what culture is for me. And it evolves over time because of your environment, where you are. Let's say you change environment. So background is from the Caribbean, but I grew up here in America. So I have a blend of cultures that I've been able to see from and be able to meet with. And in school, I was very happy in a diverse school. So I got to be around different people from all type of backgrounds and from different countries as well.
Yeah, it's so important because that diversity. So I know for a lot of people, we were talking about that off camera, Joanne. We said some folks do not embrace. Why is it important to embrace your culture, Joanne?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, well,
It's
you know
okay.
what? That's okay. I think it's important for people to um, accept their cultures and be proud of their cultures. And I'll just speak for myself. I'm American, second generation. My mother was first generation, from an Italian roots. And our culture is so focused on food, Christianity, sacraments, um, education is stressed, the arts, fashion, all these things, a zest for life, love for life. When I meet other people, other Italian people or people with Italian heritage, I can pick them out in a second. We think the same, we speak the same, we want to eat the same things. But and I think it's really important to understand yourself and where you come from. And I think you bring that then to others and share that. And I think it's just a beautiful thing. And it also makes you open-minded when you see people who have very specific cultural norms. They could be different, but that are rich, like that rich culture. You want to learn about other people's rich cultures. And I think it's just feeds on itself. And, I grew up in a town in Western New York that was very homogeneous. We didn't have a lot of diversity where I grew up. And I think there's a misconception that if you don't come from a diverse place, that you don't appreciate diversity. And when I went to college, I went to a huge state college and I met people from all over the world, and I loved meeting all these people. And it was one of the best experiences in my life, just meeting all these people. And I really enjoyed that quite a bit.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot because the
Yeah.
diversity to me is everything. And Gabrielle, you mentioned that you've been all over the world and you have friends. Can you tell us a story about like a specific story that you can share with the audience? I'm interested.
A story. Okay. Well, I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Liberia, which is in West Africa, a long time ago. And I fell in love with a Liberian man who I ended up marrying, and we have a daughter. And my daughter had never had a chance to go back to Liberia. And so a few years, in 2017, she was in her late 20s. Her uncle invited us to come. And so we came. I posted it on Facebook. I don't know if you've seen it, Gabrielle. And we got to the village where her dad is from, and they were so happy to see us. They had like a motorcade of people on motorcycles escorting us into the village. They call it a palava hut. It's made out of palm fronds, and they had a conference. The whole extended family in the village came and sat, and everybody gave speeches, and they gave us some beautiful clothes. They gave us like huge bunches of bananas and pineapples and 2 chickens and a goat, which we couldn't bring with us. So we just, we had a banquet and wood carvings, and they were so grateful to see us. And they gave my daughter an acre of land, and it was very moving. It was incredible. And then a few years later, my daughter's uncle, who had been our host, who had invited us, he came to the U.S. and we took him to Boston, New York, and Washington, D.C. We went to the African American Museum in D.C. and met. He had a few relatives and friends here in the U.S. too, and it was just a wonderful experience. And yeah, it was incredible. And Liberia and the United States have very close ties. Most people don't know that, but Liberia was founded by freed American slaves. And so my daughter's uncle was fascinated, like so many street names and places sounded like Liberian streets and places. And it was just really good time. Yeah.
I love that exchange. You went there. Of course, you had been there before, but your daughter, she went there to visit, and the uncle was able to come back. I know Queen Dawn, you've been doing a lot of traveling since your husband's been retired. How do you find, like, how has your life enriched because of your international experience that you've been experiencing? I see on Facebook.
Well, yeah, this year the past few months, I took my husband to Puerto Rico for his birthday. He took me to Jamaica for my birthday. And then we celebrated in Barbados our anniversary the last 6 months. So I'm kind of like tired of traveling. But other than that, when I first came to Boston, I felt like a foreigner in a foreign country. Boston was totally different. I'm from the DMV, which is really called the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. So they call it the DMV. I was born in Philadelphia, but raised in the DMV, DC, Maryland, Virginia area. And actually, my uncle was Congressman Lucian Blackwell, former Congressman Lucian Blackwell in Philadelphia, which is my grandmother's baby brother. And we were always taught to show people love through cooking and bringing them into your home. And we spent time in the kitchen, not the living room. The living room and the dining room, we didn't spend time in the living room and the dining room. So I've had the opportunity to interact with people from other countries. I love different type of foods. I love Indian food. I love Italian food. I love Jamaican food. I love Asian food. I love Japanese food. Reiki is a form of Japanese healing. So I love learning about other cultures and reaching out to other cultures. I'm so-called considered 80% African and the rest Asian and European. But I feel as though we're all one race with different cultures. And I'm always open to learn other people's cultures. Barbados, I don't think I would ever go back there again because of how I saw how the natives were treated there. Jamaica, I've always loved Jamaica. I must have been a Jamaican in a past life. My great-grandfather is Trinidadian. He was Irish and Trinidadian and that's where my last name Kennedy comes from. So I'm all about cultures and learning and teaching my children where their people come from and where we come from, because it's important that our children know. And I love your story, Gabrielle, how you said you took your daughter back to a country that her father is from, which is half of her. You know, our children need to know, because it's always American history. What about not his story, our story? That's what culture should be about, our story, and not just being this textbook structure of America. Let's learn about everyone's culture. And because when I used to, in 2010, when we had the census, there was certain verbiage in the census form that was offensive in other countries. You know, so we could say something that could offend someone else in our American culture. So we need to be educated. Education is golden, as you know.
Correct. Definitely. And I think the international exposure, giving our children an opportunity. I know so many families spend time buying designer shoes and designer clothes, and they spend so much time. And I was saying to you all earlier that I've had the opportunity of hosting international kids in my home. And so I've had a plethora of cultures, from European to Asian to South American to Central American, you name it. So I always say to people, I'm an international superstar, because people all over the world are calling me and saying, like, thank you for having given, for my hospitality. But also I always say all the time, like, I learned so much from them, because when we would sit down and have dinners and talk and have conversations, it would be like I would be like soaking in everything I could get because of the fact that I do love people from everywhere, all over the world, and I do enjoy learning. So that learning is so important. I know you teach, or you do, you're cheerleader expert, right, Odessa?
Well, a
Uh,
cheer coach, yes.
cheer coach, and you have kids. You know how important it is for parents to give their children that opportunity, that gift of international exposure. Do you find that it's hard for parents to do that?
I mean, I think it's not hard for parents to do that, but I think there's not always an opportunity for every parent to do so. I know I coach now, and I've always been involved in athletics. I was a track um, star at my high school when I was in high school in Newton, and part of our athletic like brotherhood, sisterhood, is we would do a student exchange with another country. So I grew up in Newton, and I was at Newton South, and we had Australian track team come to Newton, and we did an exchange. And Newton, as you know, is predominantly a non-minority town. So you can imagine on my track team, I was, one of three African Americans. So here we are, we had like about 80 Australians come to town, and I signed up to have one. I had a boy named Nick, and he was one of the only Australians from his school in Victoria that was hosted with a Black family. And so he got to talk amongst his teammates whenever they would gather to get together and kind of take notes on, like, how is your family? How are they hanging out with you? And he just would say, you won't believe it, the music we're listening to, and the arguments that they have with each other, but then they love on each other right afterwards. You should see it, like they're shouting, but they're still loving, and they have this food that we're eating, and like he never had fried chicken, he never had collard greens. He just was like talking, and all of his friends were jealous. They said, well, we want to stay in a house like that. We want to hang out like that. So I had a sense of pride because that was the first time I ever had feedback from somebody who was foreign coming into my Black American home from another country and saying, wow, his experience of America was just opened up. And he was so excited about it. And I saw that was a treasure, because his other teammates did not get that enrichment because they were in households that were pretty much all the same. They got an experience, but it was the same as everyone else. And whereas we had a little different, we had some flavor.
Yeah, a little different. I tell my students all the time that you get two for the price of one. You get the American experience as well as the Haitian experience, because they would go back to the school and say, oh my gosh, you should have seen the food. You should have seen this. You should have seen that. Because going back home in Haiti, we used to have international ministers come into our home. And so I had that, that hospitality. My mother taught us how to be hospitable and welcoming and loving towards our guests. And to have that here, it's like these kids, I'm telling you, they get spoiled. And they don't want to go. I've had children hold on to the house saying, like, house, we're gonna miss you, because they had so much fun. Because I just love the fact that they were able to come in and partake and be part of my life, and me being able to be part of their lives. So it's so important to embrace. So what happens, Lisa, when folks are not, how can not embracing your culture affect your life, especially your financial life? So we can go, you all can take a, yes. How can not embracing your culture affect you?
I think embracing your culture in many ways can either enrich or maybe be a hindrance. It all depends on certain things. I think in terms of the finances, one thing could be maybe your family is a saver. They never really have. So they save everything. They might not want to spend and enjoy certain things. There could be some aspects of that. An aspect of that would be, oh, we didn't have a lot, so I want to get this or that, or you overspend. I think it's more so, what do you spend? It could be different on what do you spend your money on kind of says a lot about you and maybe the culture and your environment that you grew up in as well. So there are positives and negatives, but you can just embrace it all and learn from it. So one of the things that I could say is that my mom used to tell me to save when I was younger, save, save, save. But she never said what the benefits of saving was. So I used to buy things and go on. I went to private school where you had to wear like a uniform all the time. So I'm like, oh, all my friends got to wear different items. So after school, when I finally got a job, I would buy outfits. But then later I understood when I wanted to do certain things, I said, man, I need to have money. That's why my mom said to save. And my mom was a very good saver. So I would say culturally, my grandmother's a saver, my mom's a saver, my aunt's a saver. So I quickly switched from maybe a more of an American lifestyle of spending to more to like the saving. And I think that could just be a family thing, a background thing, but culture can affect the way you disperse your finances. Maybe you spend more on family versus maybe yourself or vice versa. So those are some of the things that can affect how you spend your money from a culture standpoint. But it's very important to know who you are, because then you have an idea and can formulate where you want to go in the future financially, but also give yourself a sense of pride of where you came from and where you're headed.
Correct. I know in my culture we do send a lot of money back home to help those who were left behind. Does that, I know you're second generation, Joanne, but do you have any of that? Are you familiar with any of that?
Yes, I'm actually very familiar with that. Even up to today, my mother called me and said that she's going to be doing something, and whatever is on your heart to give, pray on it with like a promise that you're requesting and donate it. And so that's something that I've always grew up with in a community. That was one of the things I think I mentioned to you, Gabrielle, was also thinking about it from the workplace standpoint. Is I'm used to working in a community at home, but in the workplace, there's lots of people who work from an individualistic type of mindset. And that can pose as a difficulty, even for asking what you're worth in a job, because you're not supposed to ask for things. That's a cultural barrier, like asking for what you're worth or talking about yourself, thinking about it that way. Oh, I do this and do that. Culturally, it's like frowned upon, at least from what I have seen, to say, oh, this is what I do that. So there's a way of doing it now that I understand from education, but that's something to think about. You could maybe be lowballing yourself in a salary by just taking that first thing and just being grateful to have a job. Not to say you're not supposed to be thankful, but I think you should also be paid what you're worth. So that's one aspect there that I can remember about. But in terms of sending money, in the Caribbean, Haiti, at one point, we sent the most money through Western Union ever. And that's not during the earthquake or anything else. I think out of all the Caribbean islands, people over here, the diaspora, as they call us, we send money back home to people more so through Western Union, which is why I think the last incident that happened, we requested Western Union, hey, can you waive the fees for that last earthquake that happened? Waive the fees for sending money back home, because they won't get as much as they should, and everyone is struggling here during the pandemic. So that's something to think about culturally, is that even from a young age, I used to see my mom and my aunt send money back home if there was anything happening. So
yeah. If I can jump in.
Can I just ask Joanne? Joanne, can you give us an idea? What does it mean? Like, if you're not embracing your culture, how can that affect you financially? And then we'll go to you, Dawn.
It's an interesting question. I work in finance. So I've been in the investment world in my whole career, 27 years. It's funny, you see different cultures handle money differently. Some cultures are notorious for being frugal and being savers. Other cultures are notorious for spending and being, I won't say reckless, but I say more risk tolerant. And I think I grew up in a family where it was all about saving and saving. But I have to admit, now looking back at that, my family was so risk averse that they really missed huge opportunities in compounding and time value of money, and really the investment platform. I feel like my parents could have done a lot better if they had just sort of gotten out of this mindset a little bit and learned how to invest better. But I I don't have a story. We haven't sent money home to different people, but growing up, we didn't have a lot of money to give away. We had 4 kids, and there wasn't a lot of extra money. But I would say, fast forward to today, I think it's been instilled. If you're doing better in life, you should be, sharing that generosity with people who are less fortunate. And I think that when you talked about how does your culture evolve, or how do things evolve, I think that's a natural progression once you get out into the world. If you're doing better, I think that culture tells you other people are hurting, they need help. You can help people and feel good. It makes people feel good to receive help, and it makes people feel good to give help. And you might give help 1 year and receive it 2 years later. The tables can turn on a dime for people, and you never know what can happen to your family just out of the blue. People lose jobs, get divorced. I mean, big life changes, and not everybody has the means or the know-how to deal with that. So another thing about culture is support systems. And when you have a strong culture, typically you have strong family ties, strong support systems, and that is just as good as any pot of money on the side. I mean, really, for emotional support, very, very important.
Yeah, so important, so important. I was gonna ask the next question, and I think it will be a great question for you, Dawn. But you can answer this one too if you. No, the next question that we had was the idea of the spirit of America. We hear that all the time when they say the spirit of America. What does it mean when they say the spirit of America? And also, does every culture have a spirit? Since you are Dawn spirit,
You really want me to answer that question?
Yes, I do.
You want me to answer that question? Because what I've learned, especially the last few years, I've been in the conscious community for a majority of my life, in the spiritual community. I belong to a church called the Institute of Spiritual Development in DC, which is a non-denominational church. And we have respect for all religions. However, we got to teach our children to know that they're worth more, that they're worthy, and to release fear that they're not enough, especially our women. And when my grandchildren, my husband and I, as you know, we have 15 grandchildren. We're a blended family. We had 2 of our granddaughters here. One, my youngest daughter, she's half Guyanese, and my granddaughters she's got Guyanese and Jamaican. My other granddaughter is Sioux Indian, Puerto Rican, and Mexican and European. So they're really, 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 really close. Miss Sky and Miss Day, they're extremely close. And they both spent a couple of weeks with us for the summer, and they helped me pack. And they come from 2 total different households, but they're extremely close, and they, hang out together with social media. But I paid them to help me pack. I paid them $50 each to show them their worth. They didn't, just because they were coming for vacation, I paid them to help them work, and said, you should always know your value, your worth. Stop thinking that you're not enough. Don't fear. Let go of that fear and know that you can accomplish anything you want, because they put us in this fear mode to always make us think we're not enough, and we buy things and invest in things that we really don't need, because it all starts in from within. So we when I get this car, I'm going to be happy. When I get this house, I'm going to be happy. When I get moved to this place, I'm going to be happy. It all starts from within, period. So they put this stuff on television, these reality TV shows, send us credit cards, to raise up our debt, show us this new car. I just bought a car in 2020. 6 months later, they're sending me advertisements to get a 2021. You need this car, you know how they do. And if we can get out of that mind control and start preparing for the future and investing and teaching our children at a young age in elementary school about how to invest. These children know how to play video games and computers better than we do. So why not teach them how to invest in grade school? But they don't teach you that.
Yeah.
And so when you say the American spirit, it's not a clean heart when you say the American spirit, because so much is hidden from us. And we teach it, and it's one generational curse after another. And that's where you have the chaos, and that's why you have the police. You have all this drama where people couldn't get along in the same household when the pandemic happened. Either marriages worked and they got closer, or they broke up. Do you know the domestic violence raised 70% during the pandemic? It's time for tap within.
So you're saying like when you do not embrace your culture, you haven't prioritized who you are, and in terms of like knowing your worth, it's very easy for you to lack that spirit that should be the spirit of America.
The spirit is me.
Yeah, the people.
I'm Dawn's spirit. The spirit lies within me, and it's having respect for everyone. I don't care what color you are, what background you come from, what class you are. I don't talk down to homeless people. That's why I was talking about my uncle who was congressman of Pennsylvania. He loved homeless people. He helped them. He would give a homeless person $100. He didn't even know them on the street. You know, he embraced them. Treat people. That's what we're put on this earth to do, is to learn to treat and respect one another, respect each other's cultures, respect one another's decisions, even if we don't agree to disagree peacefully without it having to be drama.
Correct. And I think the first person that you ought to have respect for is yourself.
Yes.
And we talked about that earlier. We said, you know, the good book talks about to love others the way you love yourself. Because if you haven't developed that love and caring and you know, compassion for yourself, how can you have compassion for other people? And if you haven't embraced your own culture, you know, who you are, where you came from, how can you embrace somebody else, you know, and be curious about other people's culture? Because, you know, there is, you know, the next question that I had was, is why is it important to differentiate from the spirit or the essence of who the people are versus current events or even long-term socio-political challenges? Who would like to take that? Gabrielle? Why is it important to differentiate when you see in a people, or when you're thinking about a culture?
Oh, unmute.
I used to be a biology teacher, and you know, I think that the concept of race is more cultural, but it's not really biological. I mean, all humans have 99.9% of the same DNA, and we can all have children with each other. So it's more of a cultural construct. And I think that separating us keeps us less powerful, you know. Like, there's a few extremely wealthy people in this world, a handful, you know, Jeff Bezos and I can't think of all of their names, but you know who they are. The Microsoft guy, what's his name?
Bill Gates.
Bill Gates.
That's it. Yeah. There's
don't leave his wife out. Don't leave her out, please. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
There's a handful of people who have most of the wealth, and they're not sharing it. And it serves them. It serves their interest to keep us fighting and separated from each other. Because if we're fighting against each other, we're not going to go after them. And they're not sharing the wealth. And this goes way back to slavery. I mean, if you're a minority person on a plantation, a minority white person, how are you going to maintain control? Well, you separate the workers. You have the overseers and house slaves and the field slaves. And so people start hating each other. So really, racism is keeping this whole system of inequality in place. And we have to start seeing it for the nasty trick that it is. And people have to come together and say, we need to share our resources. We need to raise taxes for the rich. We deserve better. We deserve better education for our kids. We deserve free childcare. We deserve affordable education, affordable housing. And so anyway.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking. Yeah, I wasn't
I don't
thinking
know if I
about that,
answered the
but
question. I veered off, but anyway.
no, I wasn't thinking about that. But what you said really, really is very profound because I think about current events and things that are happening in the news, and sometimes you internalize it and you become very shameful if you're from that part of the country. And it's all, the propaganda is to make you feel like you're lesser than, and that you shouldn't be part of who you are because you're from a country that's not doing so well, or you ought to be happier because you're from this European country. But if you're from South America, over here, you shouldn't be, or Central America. And I think that dividing and conquering my idea, the same thing that happens here with the workers and everything, it's the same thing that's happening globally. Because the community, I had posted that no culture is better than others, than another. We all the same. And if you really like someone like Joanne and myself and Odessa saying like, we all been overseas and we've all had the privilege of meeting and spending time with people from different cultures, we realize like, my gosh, the more you spend time with folks who are different than you, the more you realize they're like you, right? They're very much like you. So it's very important. So again, the question, I don't know if anybody else would like to address it. Why is it important to differentiate what's happening in the news or even some long-term social political challenges from the essence, like you said, Dawn, the people, the spirit of the country or the culture? Joanne, do you want to talk about that?
Okay, I'll take a stab at it. So I think, the media right now is portraying people and dividing everybody by race and throwing everybody, white people are like this, black people are like this, Asian people are like this, Jewish people, whatever, all these different boxes and all these labels for people. And people are being pit against each other without even knowing anything really about each other. I might have white skin. Someone else might have black skin. We know nothing about each other really. And I think when it's like, you're the enemy. You're not my friend. We can't be friends. We have different thoughts. All that stuff. I think that the general population is catching on to this, that we don't need to be spoon-fed this propaganda anymore. I think, like, I like to take people at face value. I like to meet someone first and decide, let me talk to them for a little bit. Let's hear what their story is. Let's hear about this person. Let's hear what's in their head and their heart, and then make a decision if that's a relationship you want to continue. I mean, through my job, we have a lot of international people in my company. We go out for lunch quite often. I go out with, women for lunch most often. And, recently I was at a lunch with somebody from, there was 4 of us, one from Shanghai, one from Mumbai, a woman from Morocco, and me. And we have one Christian, one Muslim, one Hindu. I'm not sure what the 4th was, but we could have been sisters from the same family. We had very similar beliefs. We looked at the world the same. We enjoyed each other's company, and we don't really need to fight and buy into this racial division. That's just my 2 cents.
Yeah.
No, it makes a lot of sense. And again, wanted to have this conversation because I think it's not a conversation that everybody's having. And typically you hear, well, I don't want to be this, or I don't want to associate with this type of people. or even people looking at themselves and hating on themselves. Because whenever you say, I don't like people, and they're people from your culture, and you like as if like you are the only exception to the world, right? These people are like that, except for me. It's not true. The truth of the matter is we are actually all the same, similarities. And so my final question, and we'll take some time. What do you like about your own culture, and what one? I mean, one thing that you like about another culture that you've experienced, one other culture. What do you like about your culture, Odessa?
Let's see. Well, what I like about my culture is the fact that we're resilient. And resiliency can mean take a lot of forms. One I just comes to my mind, it's just so colorful, is the quilts that my great grandmother used to make. She lived to be 100, and she was from Missouri, and she would come to Boston all the time, and she ended up living here, and she passed away here in Boston. But she would make us these beautiful quilts, and they literally were made out of every scrap of everything, of every item of clothing that was in the house. And she just was brought up that way from her young beginnings as a child of a sharecropper. And you just didn't waste anything. And I just love the fact that I have that same spirit, and I know that it's inbred, because like the way that I recycle, the way that if I do a party, I say, wait a minute, those decorations could also go for another event. And it's not just being, cheap, it's also being resilient and being able to make something last. And it also gives me another memory. That quilt, you could look and go into another relative's house and you could see the curtains. And so a little square of that quilt was a piece of their curtain, and just like it unifies the family. And a culture that I really admire and that I look at sometimes is the Asian community, the way they embrace each other when they are coming and they're integrating into American civilization and to assimilate, and the way that they build their communities together financially as well as emotionally. It's such a strong union, and that they take such good care of each other in general. And I just really feel like they're a model for other cultures, that they could learn to do that instead of tearing each other down, but to help each other get to a point where you can take care of yourself. So that's something that I've always admired about the Asian community and the way that they've embraced each other.
Yeah, thank you. I like that. Dawn, if you have your cell phone on, please turn it off because it's echoing. Yes. Go ahead, Dawn.
So am I echoing?
Yeah, it's okay. Go ahead.
Okay. So my culture is the food. I'm a foodie. I love to cook. My husband gained 40 pounds from the time I met him, over the 10 years we've been together, because I cook with love. That's my way of healing, is to cook with love. I love, one of the things that I introduce my daughters to is Ethiopian food. Have you guys ever had Ethiopian food?
Yes, I have.
Oh my gosh. So we would like, when I used to live here in the DMV before, every Friday or every once a month, me and my daughter's friends, and we would meet for happy hour at an Ethiopian. My kids are in their 30s and 40s. So we would meet for a happy hour in DC at an Ethiopian restaurant. Or I would fix an Italian dish. I always wanted my children to tap into other cultures and to learn from other people. Like my daughter, when she first went to High Point University, she had to learn that people were raised different from her, because she kind of lived a sheltered life a little bit. Because if you're familiar with the Prince George County area, it's predominantly Black. So, and it's actually the richest county, one of the richest counties in the world, which doesn't make us any better than anyone else. But you have Black law firms, Black medical practices, Black club owners, people driving. So the European people that I saw in Massachusetts driving Maseratis and Teslas, and you see that down here. You very seldom you see that in Massachusetts. So that was a culture shock for me to see how people in Massachusetts were living totally different from the people that live here. So it was kind of a wake-up call for me too. But the wonderful thing that I love too is that I knew my husband was my soulmate, my twin flame, was that even though he was born and raised in Boston, he loves go-go music. And go-go music was born in the DMV. And he loved go-go music way before he even met me. So he learned about the culture. You know what I'm saying? That's why I just think that this world is so much more phenomenal than what we know it is. And we are so much more phenomenal than what we think we are. And it's all about the experience. Because when we go to meet that man up there, he's going to ask us, what did we learn? Because this world is a classroom.
Correct.
Yeah.
And how we responded, how we acted, and how we treated others.
My goal is to learn until I die. So Joanne, tell us a little bit of, I know Italian food. Oh, my second love. My second love.
Yeah.
But definitely maybe there's something else about your culture that you like, and also one other culture that you really admire.
Oh, well, I just want to touch on the food thing for one moment, because as Queen Dawn was talking about food and stuff, I was like, wow, when we serve food at our house, people are always thinking we're having more people over than there really is, because there's too much food for like just a handful of people. And they're like, are you expecting more people? And it's like, no, we always cook too much food, and we want it around, we want food. And I mean, we're still making recipes that my grandmother made with me, I do with my daughter, especially with the holidays coming. We have certain cookies we make, and these are things I made with my grandmother growing up and my mother. So I love that. The food, I also I just love the traditions around the Christian holidays, and I love celebrating those. And you don't have to be Christian to celebrate Christmas, but I just love that get that warm feeling inside about life. And the last speaker, this world is a classroom, and we all have to learn from each other. And I just love all that positive energy around the holidays. It makes me very, very happy. Another culture that I've met a few people over the years is the Korean culture. They are fun people. They love to have a good time. They love to drink alcohol. The whole like street food culture in Korea, their food is delicious, nutritious, very nutritious. They're great people, fun-loving people, and that is one culture where I do admire them, and I see a lot of similarities with Italians. So I think it's kind of fun to see that, especially a country that's so far away.
Thank you. I love Korean culture too. Yes. Lisa.
I think the main thing I would say as a theme is food. As a young child, I used to love to eat, but I actually didn't want to be in the kitchen. But when I left the nest, I was like craving Haitian food, and that was like the number one thing. I saw it, and it seems like you register it, what to do. Well, I saw her do this, or I saw her do that. And I would come and learn how to make the different dishes. Now I can say I do tip my hat off to my grandmother, my mom, my aunts who used to cook during big holidays. It takes a lot of work, a lot of work to make the food. And I would say Asian food takes a long time. And my husband would probably agree to that. He's Black American, and he fell in love with Haitian food, but he was like, man, it's taking so long. But after, he's like, wow, that was worth the wait. So thinking about it like that, those are probably one thing I really do love about my culture, like just having fun with food. And then one other culture that I do admire is Thailand. Someone from Asian, but I would say Thailand. I visited there and we spent 10 days there. We even went off and like met with someone who's local to show us the different area and had dinner with someone. The culture is so vibrant. The food is absolutely delicious and fresh. My favorite dish of theirs is the pad thai or king pak pao. So I like that food as well. Hopefully I said it correctly. But it was such a rich culture, and going to that side of the world and seeing different things is so amazing. I can say that if anyone has children, the biggest gift you could give them is travel. I wouldn't even give a gift. And even for my own culture, I would say, tying back to the media portrayed Haiti in such a bad light, still does to this day, and it has strong roots and tied into that. But when I went there for the first time when I was 12, that's when I realized, I'm like, oh, this is propaganda. This is not what they said it is. You can move around. You can walk around. It's, yes, there's trouble, but it's not as bad as how they make it seem. And so that allowed me to feel pride, felt strength about where I come from, my history, everything that's involved with that. So for me as a child, you're feeding what you see on TV or what you hear, but actually experience it will make you think twice about when I meet someone, ooh, I actually want to hear and know the backstory and read. That's another thing that we miss, is that we don't have the time to really invest in learning in other cultures. We're just kind of fed what's on television, and majority of it is missing a lot of context. Lies or even backstory and history. So it's always important. And I can say from that day forward, I fell in love. I've been to Trinidad, I've been to Japan, Greece, many other places, but I feel like there's something that I pull from each and every single one of them. And I would give that gift to my child when I have one. And I would recommend for everyone who doesn't have a chance to even if you go to another state, people live differently there too. Neighborhoods are different, and you can even be in your own state and never know that you have all of the rich different types of areas. Some towns have been established for years and have some traditions of their own, something so small too.
Yes, definitely. Travel is key. And Gabrielle will do this. Yes.
Oh, tell me the question again.
Oh, the question is something about your culture that you're really proud of,
Oh,
or you like,
yeah.
and also another culture that you really appreciate.
Okay, so I mentioned before that I have a lot of Jewish heritage, but I was raised more as a Christian. So I do love Christmas, but I also love a lot of things about my Jewish heritage. One thing is the Socratic method of thinking and reasoning, asking questions, and not, there's not black and white answers, but you have to sort of find the answer within yourself, what resonates with you. I really like that. And yeah, the emphasis on learning and studying in the Jewish culture, and also because Jews were persecuted in Europe for so many centuries, and most American Jews came because of that persecution, came to the US. There's a strong sense of social justice, and a lot of the white people who have been on supporting racial justice movements and in the US, and feminism and all of that, have been people of Jewish heritage. I'm proud of that. Yeah. And but I do love Christmas. I love a lot of the Christian traditions that I was also raised up in. So
yeah, thank you, Gabrielle. I just wanted to thank you all for being here tonight. I initiated the conversation with Odessa and Lisa, and then I got an email from Gabrielle saying like, oh, I like the topic, I'll be part of that. And of course, Odessa sent me an email saying like, oh my gosh, my friend Joanne, thank you so much, Joanne, for being here. I love people, and if you were to ask me the same question, I would say the thing that I love the most about my culture is the people. I love the people of Haiti. I love the men and the women of Haiti. And also, I love the music. I get something about the Haitian music that really gets me going.